You're here on an every so often basis. Come more often. Let me know what you want to hear to come in more often, and we'll be sure to talk about it. If this is the first time you're here, welcome in. We do this every weekday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And if you're considering moving forward and partnering together with us, reach out today and I will make sure that we get that ball rolling. If you're missing a piece of the puzzle to get that started, let me know. Maybe something slipped through the cracks and we can get that fixed together. All right, here we go. On screen, you should be able to see me somewhere and my slideshow somewhere else. Do me a favor and give me a thumbs up or some type of communication so I know that you can see what I can see. I got it, and we can get going. All right, so good morning. Welcome into Back on Script and simulcast on YouTube, I do believe. A special product training on Newbridge Life, underwritten by Continental General and built by Newbridge Efficiency. You'll see where I'm going with that in just a minute. If over the course of today's conversation you have any questions and I have the answer, I'll answer it. But if you have a question, post it in the Q&A and I'll be sure to answer it for you. If I don't, we'll follow up and find out. If you're watching on YouTube and you see something that you'd like to hear more about, you have a question you'd like me to answer, comment on YouTube and I'll be sure to catch that and get back to you on that for sure. All right, so the goal for today, as with any exposure to something new, be it annuities, Medicare, Heartland, Newbridge, anything, to learn a little bit about it, like just enough so that you feel like, all right, let's try it. To contract with whatever the thing is, today it's Newbridge Life, and then, most importantly, to use it. Give it at least 10 applications and then decide for yourself if this fits in your bag, your new favorite toy, or if you want to throw it out in the trash. I'm not going to be offended either way, but if we're bringing something to you, especially on a Friday like this, it's been vetted, tested, and has a very good reason why it's made it this far. One other side note, if you had any prior issues getting contracted with Newbridge, please let me know. We can re-entertain the conversation, poke the right bear, flip the right table if necessary, and review that situation. So let's keep going. Next, what is Newbridge? Newbridge is a next-gen partnership between Continental General, the insurance carrier, and Efficiency. Efficiency is a software company that has had its foot in the industry for quite a while in other products and projects and FMOs, and has worked together with Continental General to release this final expense product. Now, you'll find that this final expense product is highly competitive, especially in the preferred rates. It's in Toolkit, and if you haven't turned it on already, go over to your customized carrier section and do so. Again, built by Efficiency and underwritten by Continental General. That's the name of the company. That's what's on the paper. That's what your clients will see. Other interesting side notes. I got a couple of these subtext side notes on the slides you might get a kick out of. There's a moon race taking place in our industry right now. This might not mean much to you at the kitchen table. This doesn't have anything to do with how to close a sale, but there is an exciting moon race taking place in our industry. When you started, maybe like me, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, heck, 6 years ago, a great majority of what we did was on paper. Few carriers had an e-application. Most of them weren't very good. But COVID forced this century-old industry into the modern era of technology, and these software companies are working to take that by the horns and turn it into even more effective processes, revenue, etc. So keep an eye on that in the coming days ahead. All right, so a little bit about Continental General. Continental General, the carrier that is underwriting this product, is based in Austin, Texas, founded in 1961, and is licensed to sell in 49 states. Do me a quick favor here. If you know someone that needs to get a quick reminder to join us today, remind them that we're on every weekday. If you know somebody that you've been speaking to that's considering moving forward in our business, reach out and let them know. If you have a phone number of somebody in the agency that might need a wake-up call, remind them that we are here, and today they're going to hear some really useful information that they won't want to miss. So Continental General, based in 49 states, has a B+ rating with AM Best, 46 billion in assets and a lot of money in capital and surplus. A large portion of Continental's business is also TPA. Again, that might not mean anything to you, and you're like, what does that even mean? It means they do a lot of the claims, policy administration, and policyholder services for a lot of other blocks of business that have been written and exist in the insurance environment. What does that do to you or for you? It speaks to systems and support. It means they've got a lot of systems to manage a lot of stuff. They also recently acquired, interesting side note, a block of business that was underwritten by Colorado bankers that went into insolvency, entered the Guarantee Association in the industry, existed in limbo for many, many years. And as of February, Continental General purchased 91,000 of these active policies, took them off the receivership block, and took control of them for the client's sake. Interesting side note again. Alrighty, so why on earth does this matter? Well, I'm speaking about the carrier and why it matters because products do come and go. We're all aware of that. Products have a general shelf life. They need to be repriced, adjusted, and tweaked. But sometimes things come and go altogether. We want to make sure our carrier partners make sense. We want to make sure that the software partners that we're working with have put their skill and desire behind something that's going to be successful and work on the three-legged stool of making them money, the carrier money, and us money, of course, and presenting a solid product to the client. And we also, as an agency, want to remain on the cutting edge, not behind the curve. But also, side note, nobody wants to be GCU'd. GCU, if you'd like to sue me, bring it on. Nobody wants that to happen to them like we experienced several years ago. All right, so let's talk a little bit further about Newbridge and the product itself. Newbridge Life is an honestly pretty straightforward final expense product. Nothing complicated, nothing really confusing. It's really well built. It's your standard age range, 50 to 85. It's a three-tiered product, preferred, standard, modified. Your traditional face amount ranges of 2,000 up to 35,000. The modified is 2 to 20, and they offer both an accelerated death benefit rider and accidental death. Nothing mildly confusing, complicated, or insanely, through the roof about it. Traditional, well-built product. Next up, why? For the love of whoever you pray to, why does he want me to hear about, read about, entertain about, contract about, and sell another something? Well, here we go. First, next day pay. Who doesn't like getting paid the next business day for the work that they did? I do. I remember the very first time I experienced next day pay. I wrote a carrier that's ironically no longer on the market. And guess what happened? It got issued, it got approved, and money appeared in my bank account the next day. That was insane. I even told them, you shouldn't do this. You should put restrictions on this. This is not the idea. They want to do it. So be it. Their choice. We're going to advertise it. Why else? True Social Security billing. Incredibly important. We want to make sure your core product has true Social Security billing. It has an instant decision, obviously. They're expanding. They're offering more products on this software platform. Text to sign. Their initial launch had an email signature process that I wasn't a fan of. Their text to sign process is just as simple as every other text to sign process. The pricing on the preferred tier, very competitive. It's total state availability. Nobody wants to be in New York. Nobody really ever wants to be there. We'll expand into there. That's a ship we just have to let sail. But every other state in America, they're in. And this product, when you look at the actual product itself, pairs very well with Baltimore Life. Solid number 2 or number 1 right up against Transamerica Express. Fits perfectly great up against Old American or up with Old American, or if you love them, American Amicable. Let's continue forward. Again, if you have any questions you'd like to throw out there, feel free to ask them. I may or may not have an answer to them. And there is another question that we'll get back to in the chat later. All right, let's keep going. Common underwriting. This is an important one. What are some of the common conditions we encounter and how are they underwritten? Interesting side note, and I don't mean this offensively if somebody in American Amicable watches, The underwriting outclasses the traditional stable, nothing fancy chassis of American Amicable. So, common underwriting. They will take COPD standard. Yay. Cancer, 2-year look back to qualify for standard. Bipolar has recently been revised and is now standard. Diabetic neuropathy, preferred. Very interesting, right? Stroke and TIA, which is a mini stroke, 3 years, and preferred for 2 years. Or 3 years for preferred, 2 years for standard. Excuse me on that one. Let's go into some more common underwriting. Now, another interesting note about this one, and no offense to these products or the people that represent them, this niche or this underwriting eliminated having to have niche carriers for just this particular underwriting situation. Aflac, AHL, and Ascendo, love them or hate them, nothing really wrong with them. But in some cases, I know I would personally use them for just multiple sclerosis being standard or Parkinson's being standard because it was very predictably going to go and be approved. Well, now they also work in Newbridge among everything else that we've discussed, and you don't have to sub-niche out for just one condition with just one carrier. Parkinson's is standard. MS is standard. Heart attack within the 2-year look back is standard. 3 years makes it preferred. And then also cerebral palsy, interesting sub note. I don't know if the actuary realized this one is also standard. All right, let's keep going. I don't see anywhere in the underwriting guide where it asks about marijuana use. Smoking is smoking, and anything that they smoke tobacco-wise counts as a tobacco rate, but there's no mention of marijuana. Kidney disease, modified. The hepatitis series of conditions, standard. Systemic lupus, modified. Liver disease, modified. Now, while they take diabetic neuropathy preferred, the diabetic complication criteria knocks out a lot of other things that are important to understand. If you remember some of the original product builds like Americo's Ultra Protector series, the original American Continental underwritten by Aetna, they had these similar combinations with diabetes. And while they would be diabetic friendly with neuropathy, when it got messy like this, it was a no-go. So same kind of actuarial layout when it comes to that. Here's your diabetic decline combinations. Diabetes in combination with any kind of an amputation, decline. Diabetes in combination with circulatory problems, decline. Diabetes in combinations with insulin shock, nope, decline. Diabetes in combination with a diabetic coma, decline. Diabetes in combination with heart disorder, decline. Nothing crazy here. Again, a very typical thing they picked off the shelf of actuarial choices and put into this product. Next up, what are some other declines? Again, really nothing here that is out of the norm. This is a very familiar feel to what you see in a lot of other products, but with a more cutting edge software feel, competitive pricing, well-built true social security processing, and next day pay. So what else is a decline? Obviously, bedbound, assistance with activities of daily living, and oxygen use. Again, let's clarify. Assistance with activities of daily living does not mean they've got a family member that helps them because that's the right thing to do for their grandparent. Activities of daily living means, by the book, if there was nobody else there with them that day, they'd have to be hospitalized because they couldn't do a single thing for themselves to live. Declines, muscular dystrophy, dialysis. They're in the hospital, the jail, or a skilled nursing facility. Don't do it. Like, you're going to get that call once in your career, and it could be the one that you make that ruins it all. I had one 2 weeks ago. A client called in looking for coverage on their son. I said, perfect. Warmed up, spent a few minutes talking. Were you able to get your son on the phone with me? No, he's currently away. Okay, when do you think he'll be back? 49 years from now. Is he incarcerated? Yes. I refer that out to someone else, somewhere else that would write it, which they probably shouldn't. We can't. Don't do it. HIV and AIDS, ALS, Alzheimer's and dementia, bone marrow transplant. And like many other carriers, a reoccurrence of cancer is a decline. But if you read Security National, while they have a 2-year look back on cancer, they also do not ask, last I checked, and I check frequently, about reoccurrence of cancer. That's a good SNL tip to put in the back of your hat. All right. So, what does it look like? When you get contracted with Newbridge, you go through the Sure LC process we'll discuss in a minute. You submit the contracting and you let me know. I have to submit a transmittal on my end to them to let them know the hierarchy and the level and such so that they can process it. And then soon after, you should receive an agent number. Once you receive an agent number, you get set up to their site. You log in, relatively simple process like pretty much anything in life, and it takes you to here. On this page, you have the final expense, which is the primary product we're discussing. And I imagine as they launched new things on this product, this software platform, they would appear here as well. So you select final expense, quick quote. Next, takes you to this page. You put in the information as requested, and it continues through a very typical, very familiar application process. It's built on their own software platform through efficiency. It looks and feels pretty much the same way I've shown you on these two screens here. It's not complicated. When you log in, you'll also find product information, underwriting information, consumer product brochures. And if you search a little bit further, I'm sure that somewhere within 2 minutes of looking, you'll find the video that explains text to sign. But guess what? Same way everybody else does it. It's either they give the code to you or you give the code to them. Not that complicated. All right. So what do you do next? You either have already received the contracting for Newbridge Life, and it's a separate Sure LC link than any other Sure LC links you've used previously. At the very top, you should look to see where it says who it's from to make sure you're looking at the right Sure LC. You log in, you complete the contracting specifically for Continental General, and then you let me know so I can send in the individual transmittal form so they can process the contract at the level and hierarchy as requested. Pretty simple. Oops, nothing there. All right, so that's about all I have to share with you today on Continental General. Very straightforward product, very simple process, very clear underwriting, very competitive preferred pricing, and built properly for this era of final expense. On that note, I'm going to hopefully turn off the live stream, and then we can go into our numbers in just a moment. So bear with me as I figure out how to do those things at the very same time. And you have an opportunity to gather your numbers from the day before as we call those out. And we also are due for a first app interview from a new agent of ours if I can get all the things working correctly to make that happen. Pause record. Oh, live stream. There it is.